off a little bit. The visualizer just is getting cranky with me and doesn't like to stay focused. So what I've decided to do is the example I was going to show you, I'm going to do as a warm-up to start class tomorrow. So the videos are getting too long anyway. So here's the last one, or the last example. Hopefully the focus, we'll be able to stay in focus to get through it. All right, but we're going to decide whether the measurements given can form 0, 1, or 2 triangles. To confirm its side-side angle, which is when you'd have to decide if there's 0, 1, or 2, angle A is 63 degrees, side length A is 42, and side length B is 120. So I see a side-side angle here for sure, because this side only touches this side, and then this side is the only thing that touches that angle. So because I have a side-side angle, I can use law of sines, and I have to determine if there's 0, 1, or 2 triangles. Like I said, we're always going to assume that there's 2. So set up your page to have room, for 2 triangles. All right, then looking at what's given, angle A, if it's in triangle 1, it will be 63 degrees, and if it's in triangle 2, it will be 63 degrees. Side length A, if it's in triangle 1, will be a length of 42, same as triangle 2, and it looks like side length B is 120, 120. Okay. So now we remember from the last video kind of our order of operations of how we go ahead and do these things. I'm going to turn my video off so you can see more. Is that we first see if we can get these 3 to add up to equal 180 degrees. And how will we do that? We're going to use the law of sines to get a second angle measure, and then we'll see if we can add up to get that third. So my law of sines here would say for my first fraction, I'm going to pick A because I have both the angle measure and the side length. So side length of 42 over the sine of angle 63, and then side length 120 over the sine of angle B. So when I cross multiply here, I've got 42 times the sine of angle B equals 120 times the sine of 63. All right. To get that sine of B alone, since the 42 is multiplying it, I will divide. So here is the big question. Let's start by figuring out, kind of simplifying this down a little bit. So I'm going to go to my calculator. Hope that doesn't ruin the focus. We've got 120 times the sine of 63. And then I'm going to divide that by 42. And I get a nice 2.545732926. I'm not going to round that yet. I'm just going to keep that right in my calculator to do this next bit of work. Now, the sine and the angle B can't be separated. So it's not like you divide both sides by the sine. That doesn't work that way. The sine needs an angle with it. So how do you get rid of the sine of B? Is you take the inverse sine. So I take the inverse sine of both sides. So here they cancel. Angle B is going to be the inverse sine of that whole number that we already did. I'm not going to re-type it in, but I'm not going to abbreviate it yet either. And it's really nice on the calculator to do that inverse sine. It's second sin. It gives you that sine to the -1. And you could retype the whole 2.54 in, but if you just hit the blue second and the negative symbol, you see an A and S. And what that does is it loads the previous answer in. So it'll load that 2.5 in for us. And we get an error, okay? We get an error, and what happens there is that tells us really good information, okay? That error means we don't have an angle for B, and we don't have an angle for C. So do we have 0, 1, or 2 triangles? We have 0 triangles in this example. This side length, it's going to be like that picture on GeoGebra where that third side, it was too short, it was on a hinge, and it just swung back and forth and would never reach down to make that third triangle. So some students always ask me, how do you know when you're going to get an error? And a rule of thumb is, if what you're plugging in, this 2.54, is bigger than 1, you'll get an error. To find the sign of something, it only works when you're between, that's not really an official way to write it, 0 and 1. So it would need to be like 0 point something. If you have something 1 or bigger, you're going to get an error and it's not going to work. So that's a really nice little rule of thumb. So if I can't even get 1 triangle, I'm certainly not going to get 2. All right. Finally, you're done with the notes for, here, I'll put that more like that. Done with the notes for today. Make sure you show up for class tomorrow because we're going to do an example where you get 2 full triangles and we're going to fill in all the missing parts. Thanks for your patience with me today. This was a tough one and you made it through. Congratulations.